We're going to go ahead and get started. Clock. And so I call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock on Monday, November the 24th in 2025. And so the first order of business is our Pledge of Allegiance. And Larry's going to lead it.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have 8 directors present, and I established a quorum for us. And so the first order of business is comments for the record from the president. And the first thing that I would like to lead off with is just a little something about safety and security. And many of you probably remember that we had a torrential rain that happened in like 15 minutes, it felt like. In October. So I thought I'd read a little bit to you and just let you remember that on the evening of October 24th, we had that sudden and very severe flash flooding and resulted in a lot of vehicles in different places being stuck. And our security team was out there helping. And so one of the incidents involved one of our members, Paul Pucci. And Paul's vehicle was swept up the roadway and into the deep water in the culvert. And you may have driven, I think, on Lake Kiowa Drive and seen it just as you headed out. I think it was there a few days. And because he was in that culvert and it was so heavy, the rain, his car started filling up with water. And so he was unable, because of the pressure of the water, to get out and push the door open. And our Corporal Robert Krause arrived and he started helping. And what he did is, without hesitation or regard for his own safety, he jumped out and walked in that water and waded several feet of it to get to the car. And then he helped Paul Pucci get out through a window. And so we often see that on the news. You know, there's somebody heroic that jumps in the water and does that. But we actually had someone here in our own community that did that. And so Corporal Krause is here tonight and hopefully very surprised and okay. And that we're recognizing him. And so we have a certificate of merit. We're sort of a commendation. That word's hard for me. But we just want to say thank you to him. We often hear about security doing different things, and we don't often realize what a difference they make in our community, very positive difference. And so, Corporal, we're going to come up and have you up here and with your chief. And Rich, you want to come up and help? And so I'm going to have you walk down there with him and present that to him. And let me read this to you. So the Lake Kiowa Board of Directors proudly recognizes Corporal Robert Krause for his heroism, his dedication to service, and outstanding leadership under very life-threatening conditions. And his actions reflect the highest standards of our Lake Kiowa Security Department and exemplify our commitment to the safety and well-being of this community. And so, Corporal, we present that certificate to you, as well as just a little bit of our token. I want to carry him out now. Right. And Corporal, we did that so it would be here at the very beginning, so you can make your escape if you want to. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. You know, we often forget what a difference we make in this community. And not only does our security department do a great job, but our other departments in the POA too. So I just want you to remember in this week of Thanksgiving, if you happen to see any of them, whether at the lodge or wherever you may be, please say thank you to them for all they do, because we're very grateful for the things they do. So moving on, any comments from the members? Should be a microphone right there. Just state your lot and number and your name.
Paul Sellers, 1578. This is in regards to the pickleball situation. I just have a question for Nancy, you and all the board members, and really anyone in here that wants to answer. If you were doing a kitchen remodel, you pick a builder, you decide on a price, get everything done, everything's lined up, he's ready to go. 6 months later, nothing's been done. All he's giving you is excuses and not real answers. Would any of y'all accept that? Okay. My opinion is we're either asking the wrong questions, not asking questions, or the people that are listening to the questions are just accepting the answers. That's all.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anyone else? Comments from our members? All right. Moving on, we're going to talk about our meeting minutes here. We have several to approve. So we're going to start with the first one, which is the meeting minutes from our October 27th meeting. Is there a motion to approve those? All right, Ronnie and Larry. Ronnie and Larry seconds. Is there any additions, deletions, discussion, or anything like that we need to have on that, on those? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the meeting, raise your hand. There you go. Thank you. I see a vote 9-0 to approve the meeting minutes from October the 27th. 9, Bria is not here. So, I'm sorry, you abstained? I'm sorry. See, your hands go up too fast for me sometimes, so I appreciate that. So 8-0 there. Thank you. And 1 abstains. All right, the meeting minutes of November the 4th, which is our budget work session. Is there a motion to approve those? Chris and Larry? Nope, Chris and Cecil, sorry. Chris makes the motion and Cecil seconds it. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor of approving those minutes, raise your hand. 8-0, 1 abstention. All right. And the last set of minutes is the special meeting minutes for November the 20th, which was a budget workshop also. Is there a motion to approve them? Dylan? All right. And is there a second? Chris? Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving those minutes from November 20th? I see 6-0 and 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 have abstained because they were not there. All right. Thank you all very much. How about Dan? We got treasurer update.
Now we'll try it. All right, jumping right in, October data. You can see that revenue overall for the month, October was pretty good. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Some of that was some good surprises within the lodge. Expenses for 2 months in a row now actually are higher than anticipated, higher than budgeted. So for the year, we're down at 65,000 overspent. So the expenses are higher than we had budgeted. So we need to continue to think through that. I mean, we really only have 35-ish days left in the year. And then so that puts us at a loss toward the budget for the year to date at 112,000. As everyone knows, we need to end up with a zero budget, but we do have a 3% contingency that is out there. So that's roughly $200,000. So right now, unless we have some really ugly surprises in November and December, we'll most likely be okay. But we just need to continue to keep a close eye on it and do what we can do between now and the end of the year. On the revenue side, you can see the plus $5,000 in the lodges. As I mentioned, that's a positive surprise. A little bit less on building permits, and as we know, we're always going to be a little bit off on the garbage collection dues because of the way the contract changed after the first of the year. So the expense side is really where it gets interesting. Scott, if you want to move one slide forward. Got it. So you can see some red, especially down the bottom. For the second month in a row, it's just skipping all the way down to golf course. Golf has been over. There's a couple of surprises in here. If you look at the very last item, if you can read it from the back there, we had 19,000 more in irrigation repairs. We spent a lot of money on the pump hose control panel last year, spent more money this year. We had more money on irrigation maintenance last month than we had budgeted. So we're about $33,000 off on the golf course side, a little over in salary, but it's really between, the big $20,000 on irrigation repairs. So that's continue to be something we need to look at, and how do we get golf, in the shape it needs to be in towards the end of the year. Again, only 30 something days left, but thinking through the November and December expenses. So $60,000 expenses higher than budget, $112,000 and lower than we thought it would be when you think about net income for the community. So going through the reserve funds on the left, the thing that will jump out on you is the golf course reserve fund. It was $150,000 I spent out of that reserve fund. So the balance is down to $556,000. So that's planned activity. There's nothing, unusual or big that happened by surprise. It's just by the nature of the beast that we're spending money out of that golf course reserve fund. You can see some of the items on there. Pump house control panel, I guess, is a little bit different, but $150,000 that were spent in the month of October in golf course reserve fund. LRMF is the same way. We spend money. Cecil has that planned every month, for the year. So that was just normal spending as part of that budget process. Good news on the right-hand side, delinquent accounts went down by a lot. So $15,000. So we're down to total 45,000, still way less than our target of 3% of the budget or lower. So we're now noticeably less than 1% of the budget. So as we share some of those measures with you, that continues to be an area where things are pretty good and definitely under control. Interest income, $300,000 year to date. That's great. And about $215,000 in initiation fee. So we're thinking that will end up being around $250,000 for the full year. And as we'll talk later, the idea is that all that $250,000 would end up going allocated towards the roads again in 2026, as all the initiation fee money was allocated to roads this year. Yeah. So you can see our balances. Scott will roll through this and roll through the next couple slides. So for the people that haven't seen this in a while, Crystal's done a nice job based on feedback from Sam Timothy, our auditor, to break things out now in separate accounts. So you can see very clearly where the money is, how does it change month to month. And then on the next couple slides, you'll see kind of how that money has been invested. So I'm not going to go through this unless any of you all have a question. And then the last slide is funding reserve levels. So this is probably the first time you've seen it in this format. We've been talking about this for a while. And you know, always talked about we wanted to have this in our measures or the key performance indicators or KPIs. So across the top, we started with LMRF. So Cecil and team has built their budget or their spending to their budget. So they know how much money they're collecting. So they spend to that number or roughly to that number. They have not built a plan to do everything that everyone wants to do with dredging and updating, lake related things around the community. So on the left-hand side, you see that the budget or the reserve fund is in pretty good shape as far as what the planned spending is versus the amount of money that we have and will collect over the next 10 years. If you look on the right-hand side and you say, all right, I just took a conservative swag on this. If we needed to spend, instead of $3 million over the next 10 years, we needed to spend $10 million. And that's probably not nearly enough to do what everyone wants to do. You would, the balance would be zero. You'd only have 4% of the money to do all that work.
Just one comment that I have is we're exploring alternative options to dredging that would be a lot less expensive. We've had a company in here and pulled samples. We've talked about that. So, I mean, there are things we're looking at to mitigate costs.
Yeah, which is great. And you guys have been very diligent about that. And I think we all appreciate that. The challenge is you continue to hear, hey, why haven't we dredged every cove? Why haven't we have done this? And it's, the bottom line is, I mean, you could spend the money we have, but when that once goes to zero, it goes to zero, and that's it. So I just want to throw that out there. The golf course reserve fund is actually okay, but it really is not able to absorb big ticket items. So if we had to replace the greens or do major work on the bunkers or replace a bunch of cart paths, that would be a problem. So you can see that the golf course reserve fund goes to zero in 2029. But that's really just timing. If you decided we're going to do the bunkers or the greens in 2030 or 2034, it would go to zero in that year. So there's money there, but certainly not enough for the big ticket items. And not to, spoil the secret, but the only way we're going to get greens redone or other big ticket items is through an assessment. There's just not money out there to do it any other way. So, and then ARF underneath, same, ARF is in reasonable shape. However, given the spending, that too will go to zero in 2036. Creating the golf course reserve fund made a material positive difference to ARF because that went to zero much faster if we had all the golf stuff in there. But, at the end of the day, if nothing changes between now and then, ARF goes to zero in 2036. So one of the things that has been discussed and will be discussed is potential road reserves fund. And if we actually have a roads reserve fund and we don't pull roads money out of ARF, it actually gets to a much better place, a reasonable place. So I know there's not a ton of great news up there, but I want to continue to share this information to make sure that everyone has access to it. And when someone says, oh, look, at the bottom of the financial page in the communique, we have all this money, probably not against all the planned spending that we have. So on that note, let me stop and say, what questions do you have about any of the financial information this month? Okay.
Dan, just one, when we looked at the outstanding expenses or money that was delinquent, it typically runs in the 45 to 60,000 range. What drove it so well this last month, considering had been steadily climbing up?
Yeah, and I'll let Crystal answer that because she's obviously the expert. But when you start seeing the 90-day thing, money in the 90-day plus, there's usually an extenuating circumstance there, and that's where the money is. But I'll let Crystal answer.
We've got about 5 people that just flat out don't pay their bills. And we actually had one person call us a couple weeks ago and brought us a check for $16,000 and got their account into good standing.
Beautiful.
Dan, if we were to no longer take road money out of ARF, how would that fund look going forward?
It pretty much solves the problem. So it's not perfect. There's going to be years where it's going to be lean, and then we can go through it. But there's some quote unquote negative years in there. But through some decent management, we could make that fund survive if we were not taking $250,000 or $250,000 a year out of that to pay for roads. Thank you.
And just to clarify, the golf course reserve fund is for the 18-hole course, correct?
That is a good point. It is only for the main 18-hole golf course. Everything for the par 3 is separate.
Okay, just making sure. All right, thanks.
Good clarification.
Yeah, you are next.
All right,
Auditor's
sorry.
report.
I was anxious to sit down after sharing all that fun. So this is kind of a catch-up item, the auditor report from last year. We talked about briefly last month, but Crystal, Rich, myself met with Sam Timothy, went through his report around the audit report for last year. It's probably 5 weeks ago now, maybe somewhere in that ballpark. There was a couple things that were delayed. There were some old vendors or investments that we had that we don't have relationships anymore. So it took a little bit more time tracking down some of that information that the auditor needed, but that got done. The management letter for the audit was clean. So all good news from that perspective. So I think we're pretty confident with that. And now I think given some of the relationships that we have going forward, it'll be a little bit easier to pull the data together for the audit. So we won't have it hanging over our head like we did this year. Any questions on that?
I think we've signed an engagement letter for next year too. Right, so, okay. All right, thanks, Dan. All right, moving on to committee and business updates. First order of business for you is to consider the committee changes that have been presented to you. You'll see we have a bunch of additions that are on there. We do know that we have a few people coming off of some committees, but at this point in time, we just did the additions. And so before you, you've got additions to the Parks and Recs Committee. You have additions to the Lodge and Tavern Committee. And then you also have an addition to the Celebration Committee. And then also one to golf. Any questions on those? We're adding Diane Wilson to Celebrations, Golf Bruce Ives, Lodge and Tavern James Petty, and Mark Lundgren. And then Parks and Recs is Victoria Cowart and Becky Weber. Any discussion?
Just to clarify, we don't want to add the removals to the minutes. We're just fine with removing them going forward.
No, we will add them. We
Okay.
will show who's coming off.
Removal, then we need to add is Jim Hess for safety and security.
Okay. All right. We can add him. That's a removal. Evelyn? To go off? Okay. All right. So Lorraine Smith is coming off of Parks and Recs. And then in security, Jim Hess.
And
Yes, sir.
not to complicate, Craig Lumpkin is coming off covenants and bylaws.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
But we're not taking him off yet.
Okay. Craig here? Does he know that?
He's not here. He said through the end of the year is what I
Okay.
heard.
All right.
I heard through the end of the year.
Okay. Selective hearing, but
Okay. All right. Any other updates to the committee? Changes? Is there a motion to approve them? Larry and Dylan. Larry approved, moves to approve and Dylan seconds. All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, 9-0. Kendall, you have approved those committee changes. Thank you very much. I know there's some other people that are out there that really, really want to serve, and just waiting for them to walk up to the board members up here. So, all right. Did a good job of moving my papers here. So, let's see. We were going to have an update from the Vision and Mission Committee, but we did hold that for right now. Ways and Means Committee budget update. So that would be Leslie McElroy and Dan, I guess.
Yeah, I
And
don't
Rich.
believe Leslie's here today, but you want to start and I'll jump in.
Yeah, Dan knows quite a bit the Ways and Means as well, but you have some inserts in your packet. It's mostly just the reserve funds, and I'll hit the highlights of what we reviewed in Ways and Means. In ARF, we have a total expense of 780,000. So against revenue, that'll be a net negative for the end of the year, about 251,000 for a golf course reserve. Like Dan mentioned, we have a lot of expenses. Again, we have about $476,000 in expenses, a net negative to the fund by the end of the year of 204,000. Lake Management has a light year of only 50,000 expenses in 2026, so they'll actually be a net positive of $117,000 in that fund by the end of the year, or projected. We've gone over CARF previously, and then I also have in there, as we talked about the projections, so you can see some details of the projections actually going out to 2040, where it shows ARF going negative in 2036. GCRF going negative in 2029, like you said, but the majority of that is the greens, which we had in for over $1 million. You can see if you look at the yearly cash flow, it's kind of positive, negative in the GCRF, but it definitely goes negative if the greens or something major is added. If it is an assessment, I think we could probably manage some positive, negative years with the GCRF. But definitely any large sum would have to be an assessment. And I actually have that projection in there as well. If you flip the page, you can kind of just see, you have positive years, you have a -15, -8, but I think those are numbers we can manage. And if you can read the LMRF schedule, again, that's kind of a pay-as-you-go schedule. As the money comes in, the projects are done. If you can see at the end, as Dan stated, it's about $10 million at the end of 2045. We'd still have about 6 projects to do. It's $6 million. That would leave us a negative of almost 9 million, even at 2045. With the money we come in to try to do all the remaining projects, we'd be almost a minus $10 million in the fund. Ways and Means reviewed this. I believe you spoke with Leslie. They recommend all the maximum increases for all these and all the expenditures. Anything else you have to add?
Nothing, just in addition to that, Rich and Crystal did a really great job pulling together the information, made it digestible for Ways and Means to understand it. And Ways and Means definitely, agreed with the recommendations that Rich and Crystal put forth.
Just to note too, we really got into more detail onto the expenses So we have actually each individual item with inflation factor of 3% projected all the way out every year till 2045. And every single item that in the replacement year is an actual number of what that inflation cost would be. So this year it's actually much more accurate than it had been in previous years.
Are there any questions for Rich and Crystal down there? And Dan? Any questions? Is there a motion to approve the proposed budget? Chris? Is there a second? Dan seconds it. All right. Chris makes a motion to approve the budget, and we're talking about, make sure we're talking about the budget for
The reserve fund budgets.
the reserve fund budgets. Do what? It's everything, right? Okay. All right. I heard one thing and then I wasn't sure I heard the next. Okay. All right. So the motion would be to approve the proposed budget. Is that in the amount of $6,787,086? Is that what you're saying? Which one are you looking for? Am I looking at a different one? Could be.
No, I think you're right.
It's
Has the blue on it?
It's $6,787,086.
Yes. Okay. The one with the blue on top. It
Correct.
says proposed budget, manager's proposed budget, right? Okay. And that includes all the proposed budget. That includes all the maintenance fees and operational expenses for O&M, correct?
Including the increases for
Yes.
the restricted reserve funds.
Yes, because that's on there. And what the increases would be under the middle column there. Right? For the total of fees would be $359.65. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that's for those that have a developed lot, correct? Am I reading that correct?
Yeah, it includes the garbage collection.
Right. Okay. All right. So the motion before you is to approve the budget $6,787,086 with the reserve fund increases and the new monthly maintenance fee. Correct? Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. The motion passes 9-0. You've approved the 2026 budget, proposed budget, and it will go in effect January the 1st. Thank you very much. Lots of time and effort in that. Doesn't always seem like it is, but there's lots of time and effort in that to try to get it moved just right. So thank y'all very much for all of that and all the meetings and special work that Crystal did and Rich did to get things right. So I appreciate that. And if there's other money out there someplace that we've missed, if anyone wants to tell us where it is, we would be more than happy to take that and put that in there. So, all right. So moving forward, you approve your annual budget. We'll be on E with the golf committee to talk about the golf event calendar. Ronnie, that's on your list.
What the golf committee did here was determine what the requests were for the various organizations such as the MGA and the WGA, and also for any other tournaments that were requested and habitually occur, like the member guests and crate capers, all of the others. And first, they were all submitted to the pro and the superintendent, and then they came up with the list. And then the golf committee met and reviewed all of the list. There are also times for the par 3, and all of those are listed. And There are some tournaments in the par three. There are also some organizations that have requested time to play on the par three, and that includes the par three association. And the golf committee has approved all of those requested times, and there's still a vast majority of the times that are available for public play within our membership. It's important to note that any way you calculate the percentage of how many of the associations and groups that play regularly take up tee times as opposed to those available to the general membership. And unless someone sets the parameters, I mean, do you include late evening times when you can't squeeze in 18? Do you include times when it's rained out? So you can pretty much any agenda you have to show something, you can come up with the numbers. But we are working now on coming up with a reasonable way to calculate what portion of play goes to the committees and the associations and the set tee times and what proportion is available to the membership with a view toward making sure, particularly on the par three, that we all consider to be something as an amenity for the members, that the use from the other groups is not impacting that unreasonably. And we will continue working to that end. And if it's necessary to amend the schedule, we'll do so, particularly in relation to the par three. Any questions?
Ronnie, I have one question. As you go through that, well, really a thought more than a question. As you go through that workaround, understanding tee times that are taken up by the different constituents, it would be helpful for me to understand, and this came up a couple months ago, of the really sought after times, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, what percent of those tee times are taken up by, tournaments and, MGA, WGA, whatever. Because, looking at the SAT survey that we did a couple of months ago now, or I guess August, that was definite feedback that some people felt that aren't part of the MGA, WGA, or whatever, that they felt they were not able to sign up on those prime time tee times. And just would be helpful to be able to say, here, X amount of tee times are available on Saturday, Sunday mornings for people that aren't work full time, weekenders, or not MGA, WGA type folks.
We don't have a proportion for that. That's one of the things that I think the board needs to discuss, is how they want to approach the use on Saturdays and Sundays, because we have so many members that are only here on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah, and I understand. So that was what my comment was, is if we could calculate, somehow figure out, and we all would have to agree what is that calculation. But, I think that would be a helpful number to have and then syndicate, because that does come up, and, we haven't been able to answer that question in the past.
I think it would be important for the board to table this until next month, and for the president to appoint an ad hoc committee on the board to come up with that. I know Dylan has already done a lot of work on this issue, and to make some reasonable assumptions and then determine what a reasonable percentage of play is before we approve this. But I want to emphasize that the golf committee has approved it as it is. Yes.
Microphone. There's a discrepancy between my iPhone's calendar and the calendar that you've got, or that I've got in my. So I'm just trying to figure out which is right now. Apple couldn't be wrong, right? So anyway, they show Saturday's the 30th instead of the 31st, like it's on here. I'm just looking at May of 26, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just wanting to make sure this is the right calendar before we.
This is the calendar that was the last one submitted by Lauren, that was submitted to the golf committee.
Okay, I'm just saying, what somebody's calendar is wrong. I'm fine with this mine. I'm May of 26.
No, it's Monday through Sunday. It's not Sunday through Saturday. On the
Nope.
page, it's Monday through Sunday.
I understand.
Okay.
And I'm just looking here. And this
May the 1st.
this Saturday is
May the 1st is Saturday. May the 1st on your calendar is Friday. That's Friday.
well, I'm just
See
too
the first-
stupid to see a
Yeah,
calendar.
that's
Okay.
it.
That, no. Okay, I'm good now. Thank you.
Chris, it was a good question. Anything else?
I do. So, is there a motion to table it to the next month? Is there a motion to create an ad hoc committee?
I so move
Okay. You so move what?
that we, I make a motion
No.
that we table the golf schedule for 2026 until our meeting on December. And the president appoint an ad hoc committee of the board to determine the percentage of play on weekends and any other times, holidays also, and any other times that the ad hoc committee thinks is significant.
They were phoning in. So Ronnie made the motion and Dylan seconded, I believe. All right. Is there any discussion on that? It's a two-part motion there. No? All those in favor, raise your hand. 9-0, it is approved. And so is there anyone that would like to be on that ad hoc committee? Dylan? Okay. You realize you do realize that the first person I name becomes chair, right? But then you can appoint somebody else whenever you meet. So just so you know. No. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Who did I see that had their hands? Cecil, Dylan, Ronnie. Okay. I'm open. Y'all made the motion, so.
Leslie's done wanting, then you want Leslie to be on it with us, and she's put a lot of work into it, and I want James Lingle to be on it with us as well.
Is,
I'm voting for him by proxy because he is in Mexico.
is it possible to add someone that is not a full-time resident? Someone that can represent people that aren't here full-time?
Well, I think they're the ones that are going to be playing on the weekends, right? So that would be appropriate to put
And
somebody there.
I am volunteering with a caveat, since I'm the only non-full-time resident on the board, that I have surgery coming up in a week. So I may not be able to be there consistently in the first little part of December.
All right. So I have Leslie, James, Lingham. Is that correct? And then Dan, Dylan, Cecil, and Ronnie. Is that correct? All of you have been duly appointed, by the way, just to let you know. So, and so your report, I have Rich on there. He's ex officio at like every committee. So I have him on there. Yes. Yes. He's the secretary of the committee. Oh, well, all right. Go for it. And so I would like your report back so that we can have it for the December board meeting, to Bria's point. That way we get that approved and yes, that'd be correct. December 22nd would be the next one. That's your charge. You good? Okay. All right. Okay. And you're taking part of it back. Is that correct, Ronnie, back to the golf committee? Do I understand that? I'm going to take any of it back? Then my questions on the calendar, we have an NTJGT tournament. That's on June the 1st, I think, that first Sunday. Do we know what that is?
I don't.
Okay, I'm assuming it's North Texas General Golf Tournament, Juniors Golf Tournament. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm assuming that it is. And then the other piece of that is, we have shotgun starts for like the WGA and the OMO. And so does that shotgun start time, do those times change depending on how many people are out there? Like if we have enough people, if we have 120 people that come out on Thursday morning, they're going to take the whole course. But if we have 25 people come out, then we're going to only have like 4 holes. That would be my understanding of shotgun start. So,
No, the shotgun start would either be in the morning or in the afternoon, and they would finish in around 5 hours
okay.
because they would all be starting at the same time. And
Okay.
it's a little slower than a regular 4 hour round.
But that would still allow other people to come up and, if a shotgun start, everybody in a tournament, everybody goes out, hole number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4.
Shotgun start means everyone starts on a different hole.
Right. At the same time, correct?
Correct.
And so if we only covered 4 holes, then that would leave 14 holes left that people could start from.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And when Lauren figures the tee time, she estimates how many, just like the old men's group that
Mhm,
plays,
mhm,
the old
mhm,
men's open,
mhm,
they reserve until 10:30.
mhm.
But anyone that shows up early, and a lot of people know that, and they do, they get a tee time as soon as that group has gone off. So anytime there's any tournament or any other activity on the course, if there are other times available, they are often accommodating people that slip in afterwards.
Okay. All right. Just making sure because I know that there's a lot of energy at different times about the fact that people take up on those days, they take up like the whole morning, but yet there's people that could still play. So, okay. And then the other question I have, and it's not in here, I know that we allow Callisburg to come in, and I've heard North Central Texas College comes in and practices or plays, and so I don't see any of that reflected on the calendar either. So, just a feedback back to the golf committee.
That's noted.
Thank you, sir. All right. Anything else on that? All right, we're going to move to Lodge and Tavern Committee. Any updates on the restaurant hours of operation? On. We always give you the one that doesn't work.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Why is it that one lawyer's works and the other lawyer doesn't get one that works?
Yeah, it's planning well, isn't it?
Jeremy was asked to do a schedule of hours that was different than his current one, considering staffing available. And that's the schedule that he came up with that was approved by the Lodge and Tavern Committee. But it's submitted to the board for suggestions, realizing that anytime we increase the hours, we're also increasing the cost. And Jeremy has been charged and has been doing an excellent job of watching the costs and the income and encouraging income and discouraging costs to the extent that he can. And so I think he has a pretty good handle on what hours are available, but there are certainly areas where I think the board could look at and determine that it might be advisable, particularly in the summer months or weekends when our non-permanent members are here, that those facilities are made more available to them.
Does anyone have any questions?
I actually do, Ronnie. Wonderful. Love the consistent hours. Second question or first question. What about holidays? Will it just match up with whatever day it is on, or do we have like holidays we're going to stay open until 9 or 10?
They have not made a special provision for holidays, so the calendar stays as it is. unless there's a determination based on how many of the staff can show up. You know, we had 4 that at Halloween that called in sick on the same day and were actually sick, but it shorthanded us, and actually the wrong decision was made and it was closed rather than opening it and having drinks available. We had people that could mix drinks, and we had a kitchen staff that could make hors d'oeuvres or light snacks, and we should have stayed open and done that. And that has been corrected. In the future, the highest and best alternative is to stay open. And if we can't stay open, someone needs to answer for why we couldn't. Because there are expectations that everyone out here has, and the more the lodge is open, the more people will come and the more efficient it will be.
I will say, just to speak to the holiday hours, that's a tough one because like at July 4th, there are certain times during July 4th, like we thought we would have more people on July 4th in the afternoon that would stay after the activities and stuff with the kids. But if they had their kids out there, they were way too tired and they needed to go home before the fireworks started, or they had, smokers going or stuff like that. And so we found that, we were going to lose money if we stayed open then. So that's a tough one, but there's probably a better time. And so I agree with that, to consider to keep looking at that. I do like the fact that we're going to consider possibly a Saturday breakfast buffet. I think that speaks to our weekend opportunities that are there. And so I agree with Dylan, consistent hours. You said you had 2 questions.
I would just like to, holidays, again, people are coming here, and I think it's important to have hours of op. I was actually the opposite of Nancy. I did not have my smoker going, so I tried to come up here on July 4th and was forced to go to the 902. So,
Nancy, one other thing that we addressed, there seems to be a lot of coagulation around the bar when 7 or 8 servers are all making drinks. So we discussed that at the last meeting, and we are interviewing bartenders so that we'll have consistency in the way the drinks are made, and that we also won't have all of the service staff clogging up the area. And we think that'll be a much better solution.
Just one more question in regards to holidays. The other than the 4th of July, the other 2 were on Mondays. So could you offer breakfast on those Mondays and open the hours to 9 or 10 o'clock? And would it be profitable? Or something that would pay dividends?
Yeah, when you say profitable, from my point of view, that's tough, right? So you're always balancing member satisfaction with, increased tickets, but is it profitable? That's a whole nother story. So, maybe. I think the only way is you really kind of experiment and try. Being the finance representative here, so my perspective, my personal perspective is we should try these things, especially if there have been things that are requested by the members. And if we find out that usage is different and that, that we can't, do it profitably, then we have to reconsider. But I also think, and I think Dylan and I had this conversation a while ago, when you make changes, it takes a while for people to figure it out. So you probably need some time to allow people to understand what's different and then take advantage of that. So, it shouldn't be just, oh, Saturday morning, no one showed up. That's it. We're done. So it's very hard. And I give Jeremy in the lodge committee credit for being creative and trying to figure out the right answer and balancing all those potential needs.
If you're ever here on a Monday, we're here on a Monday. During the day, we have more people in this building sometimes than we do have other times. So, there's just trying to figure out the best times to do that. So I agree, consistency and trying something. So I think they're going to try that. So thanks for taking that back to the committee. Do you want any action at this point on those operating hours?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just asked Ronnie to go back to the committee and potentially put together a holiday schedule. But for the time being, I make a motion to put these hours, what am I trying to say, into service effective immediately.
All right, you have a motion before you to start the hours. He has it drawn out from January through May for starting next year. Do you want to start it? Do you want to start it in December? But it does September through December. So are you saying start like December 1 or are you saying January 1?
What do you feel is doable?
I think we should start at January 1.
And I agree. So I
Okay.
amend my
All right.
motion to effect.
Okay.
We already have the schedules for the workers
Mhm.
for December, and we'd have to change them. So
Agree.
All right. You have a motion before you to approve the 2026 operating hours for the lodge January through May and then September through December with holiday and summer extended hours to be considered and to be brought before you. Is that correct? To provide consistency? All right. All those in favor, say aye or raise your hand. All right, there you go. Thank you. All right, it is 9-0, and you have approved those operating hours to start January the 1st. Larry, Parks and Recs update. We do this every now and then throughout the year and have a committee update on what they're looking at and what they're going to be doing going forward. So, Larry, you want to tell us about Parks and Recs?
Yeah, in keeping with what the board, I believe, had brought forward as something to make sure that POA membership was more aware of what was actually taking place, maybe in the future. The Parks and Rec Committee has put forward our projects and priorities for 25 and into 26. First thing, I don't know if you, Kendall, do you have slides for this? Okay. Okay, if you don't, that's fine. The members of the Parks and Recreation Committee are Denise Adams, Dina Fagg, Jim Fox, Kelsey Hunter, Lisa Porter, Lorraine Smith has been a member and has asked to be taken off the board for just personal, because of some personal commitments. Roger Treacher, Becky Weber, and Victoria Coward are new members of the park team, and then Scott Manning and Rich Augustiniak are ex officio members also. The overall purpose of the Parks and Recreation Committee was actually established by the POA originally to assist the board of directors in determining policies and procedures in matters affecting the community's parks and outdoor recreation facility. Originally, it was the Parks and Lake Committee, and a few years ago, the Lake Committee was sectioned off, have enough issues there all by themselves. The overall objective of the board through the Parks and Recreation Committee is to provide safe and enjoyable outdoor recreation facilities for the Lake Kiowa POA membership and their guests. That includes facilities such as the West Beach playground, swim area, volleyball and pavilion areas, the East Beach playground, swim areas, volleyball, tennis and pickleball courts, and the mini pavilion there, the walking trails, basketball courts, frisbee, disc golf course, and into the community garden paths and garden areas. All of our projects are prioritized by funding, which is an issue, as you'll see. Construction status, and it's really driven by the POA membership's response to the ongoing surveys through the Long Range Planning Committee. So a lot of these you'll see that are reoccurring, and we can talk about kind of why they seem to be reoccurring. But in 25, one of our original priorities was the American Legion Veterans Memorial Park. That plan has been completed and approved by the board of directors. The funding was 100% via donations through the American Legion group, and the current construction status is that we are awaiting the contractor. They're similar to what we have in a couple of other ongoing programs. So the second item here is the pickleball courts. Again, the plan is completed, has been approved by the Board of Direction. Funding was a combination donations through the Pickleball Association as well as POA budget allocation. Current construction status also is awaiting the contractor. The 52-acre park area utilization, naming, signage, priorities there. The signage around Little Wolf Park has been approved by the park and the board of directors. Funding to this point has been approved by the board of directors. And the Little Wolf Park construction has ongoing future projects that are on the board. Proposals, again, have been identified by the long range planning committee surveys and really will be dependent upon the board of directors funding approval. We were supportive of the par 3 golf course and the driving range. The plan there is completed and approved by the par 3 committee and the board of directors. Funding was provided by donations. The construction is complete and currently in use. The 52-acre walking trail, Little Wolf Walking Trail. Here's a proposed plan under review. Funding and budgeting approval will come through the board of directors, and that's awaiting a final approved plan. West Beach, new playground equipment. This is the larger playground area, has enhanced safety features. Funding has been proposed as a combination of donation through a donation committee, as well as some POA budget approval. We're waiting to finalize just exactly what the total budget should be on that, but be somewhere in the probably 150 to maybe close to $200,000 area. Construction again is awaiting responses from the contractors on RFPs, so that we'll have a better idea of what exactly that estimated dollar value is going to be. Little Wolf Pond will be a second children's fishing pond and a dock facility there. It's being stocked currently with assistance from the anglers group. The pond currently is in place on the south side of the entry into Little Wolf Park. The proposed dock and fishing piers awaiting final approval and budgeting again through the board. Whoops. A dog park has been on the long range planning review list for a while. It keeps coming up and dropping off and coming back. So we're looking at a review of best design for designated dog play areas. The location currently initially appears to be the area on the south side of the Lake Kiowa Dam, west of the spillway. Funding for that again will come through the POA budget process with the board after a park review and approval of the final plan. Additional projects are listed with the park program. They've been identified from, again, the long range planning member surveys. So it'll give you some idea of how important those surveys are. There are results that come from making a vote there. But we're looking at an activity or fitness center, which is a multi-purpose facility, an exercise area, indoor jogging area. All of these would be subject again to the review and approval of final design and identification of the necessary funding. So the key issues that the park has going forward are much like some of the other committees and other areas. The increasing cost of proposed projects, even as some of those linger behind for for lack of funding, the cost of the project continues to move forward. So, and just stretched POA funding is a major item. Limited opportunities for outside funding, again, is something that we're dealing with. But anyway, it gives you an update as to where the park committee is and what we're looking at and through the end of 25 and into 26. Okay. Any questions?
Larry, do you know how much the playground committees raise?
I think their hope is to raise at least 50% of that, maybe upwards of $200,000. So,
But do you know where they're at now?
I don't.
Okay.
I'm not sure they really know at this point. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. I appreciate it. There's lots of stuff that's out there on the agenda or horizon someday. Not today, though, but coming that way. Okay, so let's move on to the nominating committee. Dylan?
Yes, so before you, you have the calendar of the events for the nominating committee, but just for tonight, I'm going to announce the nominees. And as I announce you, would you please come up? And then I've also got some pieces of paper here with how you'll appear on the ballot. So once I announce your name, please come up here and take a pick. In no particular order, Dusty Turner. I didn't get any theme music, so we're just going to walk up slowly. I folded them up good. Just don't look, just grab one. And then if you want to tell Rich what number you are, or I can write it either way. Dusty Turner, number 5. Next up, Rick Jameson. Number 1. Next up, Josh Orton. Number 6. Next up, Lisa McRae. Should have done ladies first. That's my mistake. It's all right. It's all right. All right. It's all right. Number 4. Mark Tarpley and John Makuta are not here, so I'm going to draw on behalf of Mark. Number 3. And John Makuta is going to be number 1. Excuse me. Put me on the spot.
Wait, Rick? Yeah, Rick would be happy about that. Okay.
That's all I have for tonight. Pete may try to get some headshots. If you want a headshot, some of y'all have sent me some. If you want to get a different headshot with Pete, help yourself. Have a headshot. You want Pete to take your picture for communique, please. And then a lot more information on our candidates will be in the communique for January and February, and of course the Women's Forum as well.
And the Women's Candidate Forum is January the 17th. Yep. It's 6:30. So, and voting starts January 31st.
January 31st through March 1st.
January 31st through March 1st, right? Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you all for running. We appreciate that. It's always nice to have volunteers that step up, and we appreciate that very much. It is a great opportunity every day. Every day. All right. Nothing else, Dylan? That's it. All right. You going to come up with theme music for next time? Yeah, they would. It'd be really nice. All right. I believe up before you is the Covenant and Bylaws Committee. Sean.
All right, we've got 2 proposals for the board to consider, 2 bylaw proposals for the next election. The first one is the proposal for the creation of a new road reserve fund. And just so I can decide how much background to go into, who was here for Rich's presentation about 2 or 3 months ago on the... Yeah, I mean, we can either go through it again, or if everyone was here, I mean, Was anyone not here? I guess I'll ask it that way. Okay.
I will say I believe I was here, but I think I was slightly confused on how we were going to pull it in or out of ARF. So I wouldn't mind y'all going over that piece. If I was confused, I assume some members
Okay.
might have been
Well,
confused as
just
well.
maybe it would be helpful for Rich to do just a quick rundown of your presentation again to refresh everyone's recollection on the details of both the why and what we're proposing, and then we can pick it back up from there.
So up on the screen, you can see currently road funding. We have some money coming out of O&M. We use $250,000 a year every year from ARF. And we've recently been utilizing the initiation fund. And this next year, 2026, we'll be using all the funds from the initiation fee as well. Over the years, luckily this year, we've actually had 530,000. We'll probably have similar for 2026. But over the previous 10 years, we really only had maybe $250,000 to $350,000, which is not a sufficient amount of money to do all the roads. Next screen. You can see from ARF, we use $250,000 every year. If we would have just increased ARF 3% every year up until now, we'd be utilizing $335,000, almost $336,000 a year out of ARF, but we've been stagnant the whole time at 250,000. So over this 10 years, we've lost expenditures towards the road of over $450,000. So extrapolating what we're asking for is basically $20 a month of a new fund, which we would no longer utilize ARF. That would actually, as we spoke before, that would help ARF from failing. It should be able to sustain itself just as is. What I'm asking for the $20 would actually get me about $350,000 a year, where if we had increased the $250,000 every year is where we would be now. And just for clarity, if this was approved, we want to start April 1st, which would get for 9 months would be $264,000, which we're currently utilizing in ARF, and then going forward, increasing it every year. Just some costs to go over. You crack seal the little lines you seal. They're fairly cheap at 7 cents a square foot. Seal coats 45 cents a square foot, but even a mile of seal coats $50,000. So just the spray to try to extend the life of roads $50,000 a year. If you were to just a seal coat all of Lake Kiowa, would be over $1 million. Striping, which everyone looks at and says, oh, that's it's cheap. If we were to stripe every mile of Kiowa, it's almost $200,000. The reflective striping, which we tried to see what it would look like, it's extremely expensive, over $3 million. Just to do an overlay of an existing road, would be $5 million to do all the roads. And then at some point, you have to mill down the road and start the road over. You're looking at $10 million of what the entire cost of the roads would be. So if we're using $500,000 a year, you can see that it would take up to 20 years to do all the roads, with maintenance and redoing them, probably even more. So that just gives some of the information. Ways and Means has looked at this. Like I said, ARF is projected to fail at 2036. Not utilizing those funds would allow ARF to sustain itself. And then next slide, you can actually get into what the ballot would look like. And basically, the road reserve fund would be for the association roads, including paving and striping. It would not be part of the regular assessment, but as a restricted reserve fund, I'm asking for that because of inflation, that it would be allowed to increase 5% a year. Different of what ARF is at 3%.
Does that answer your question and then some? Yeah. So yeah, this proposal officially comes from the covenant bylaws, but Rich obviously had a lot of input, as did the Ways and Means Committee. So I don't know if Dan, if you want to take an opportunity to say a little bit more about what the Ways and Means Committee's opinion about this is.
Yes, thank you, Sean. This has been a discussion item with Ways and Means for over 2 years now, as we've been trying to think through how do we save ARF, and this was even before the golf course reserve fund was approved. So, I think it was 2017 was the first time road money was taken out of ARF. Is that directionally right? So, and that really was done because there just wasn't money anywhere else. It wasn't necessarily the best answer, but it was the pragmatic answer at the moment. So this proposal, as it's written, really initiated with Ways and Means discussion and then got formalized in the last 6 months. Rich took the lead, which is tremendous. And this definitely has the support of the Ways and Means Committee.
Okay, yeah, I'll just kind of make like the three-part ask and then open it up for questions. So number one, I think we need to consider number one, do we want to move forward with this sort of the establishment of this fund? Number two, you have both the proposed language for the bylaw and the resolution in your packet. So let's look at the actual language. And then number three is the amount. So the proposal right now is $20 a month. And we're trying to balance it being a large enough number to be meaningful, because anything really smaller just wouldn't really move the ball that much. And it probably honestly could go a lot higher and not probably get us to exactly where we would love to be, but at some point it's got to pass. So just finding that sweet spot is what we're aiming for. So $20 is sort of the opening bid. If anyone has any thoughts on up or down, I guess that's what we're here for. So
Rich, can you go back to the slide that has the different dollar amounts, just for context? Thank you. So when I look at it, as Rich said, $20 was kind of picked because that gets us somewhat status quo. Obviously you get the 5% increase, which is different than, ARF, but we've not been increasing the money out of ARF for roads. But as we know, with inflation, a lot of these items are going up more than, inflation on average. So to me, even though this would go up if past 5%, it still wouldn't necessarily give us more money on roads. It just would help us keep up with the higher cost. So to me, and if I'm going too far, let me know. But to me, the $20 is, status quo. If you went above that a little bit, that's what's allow us to start chipping away at some of the things that we want to be able to chip away at. Like, I think we all agree the Class B striping is better, but is it 3 times better because it costs 3 or 4 times as much? Those are the types of things we need to understand and think through with this proposal. The monthly amount for this proposal, I should say.
What made Ways and Means do this as a totally separate fund versus carving out a percentage like they did for the Golf Course Reserve Fund?
No, it's a good question, and one that had a lot of discussion. And the bottom line is, you're trying to solve for fixing the roads and not having ARF go broke. So we know that every member uses the roads, and not necessarily every member plays golf. We already had a much bigger percentage money in ARF going towards golf. So when we did the math around, what we need to do around roads. This was kind of the concept of, we never should have been, in my opinion, taking money out of ARF for roads. Again, it was a pragmatic decision at the time. This gets ARF back to being ARF, and then this also then solves for the roads, and ARF stays in reasonable shape going forward. So it was really trying to touch all three of those things, where if you just say we're going to take $250,000 out of ARF and move it towards a roads reserve fund, it wouldn't do much good for any of the different funds. Well, it wasn't O&M before that, but as O&M is things like property insurance, health insurance, all those things, utilities kept on going up. There's only so many discretionary things you can cut in O&M before you start cutting into bone. And that was the challenge. So I give credit for the people that were making those difficult decisions back then, but it's like a lot of decisions that we have to make. It's not perfect, but it was as I said, the pragmatic one to get it done. So now we have a chance to reset and think about what the right answer is going forward. I think the other component is, when we had these discussions in Ways and Means a year or two ago, Golf was the biggest expense and, separate than what we already had, and roads was second. So this was always kind of in the back of people's minds is if we got the golf course reserve fund in the past, which we did, then this would be the logical follow-up. There's not discussion just to make sure people understand that we're now going to, create a third, and fourth, and fifth, and sixth after this. These are the big expense sinks. So let's figure out how do we address them in a way that, it's all satisfactory to the members that use these resources.
Where does the new member initiation fee now end up?
So
Is that
the way
on
we,
its own?
the way we did the initiation fee was, since it's dependent on how many houses are sold to new members, and that number obviously will change from month to month, year to year, that we collect that money during year one, and then during the budget process, decide where that money goes in the following year. So we, in the budget process, decided for the second year in a row to put 100% of the initiation fee money into O&M, into roads. The way the bylaw was, or not the bylaw, but the way that the language was that the board adopted was the board has the decision and it can go to O&M, which includes CARF. So it can go to anywhere in O&M, the board decides, including CARF.
Okay, but it's primarily hit in the roads area up until now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 100%. And we could make next year after, we could change that to anything we wanted. But this year and last year, we decided 100% roads since we needed the money.
Okay.
And just one follow-up, and then I know Cecil wants to make a comment or question. If this were to pass at the current rate, this wouldn't even take care of all the roads. So there will still be a need to think about O&M, I guess. Is that correct? Yeah. I mean, this is not just a 100% fix for all the roads couldn't be repaired and basically funded by this fund. Is that fair? Clear on what the money, how far it will actually go.
Right. As Rich showed, I mean, we spent this year we'll spend roughly $500,000 on roads. Money comes from initiation fee, O&M, and ARF. The goal would be to have enough money from this to be able to not take money out of ARF. And at some point, we probably may want to use the initiation fee money for something besides roads. So that's why, where does this dollar amount start at, or what's the initial proposal makes a big difference. Because you're right, it doesn't say we get every road repaved and, perfected in the next year. That's for sure.
Nope. This basically, like I said, replaces ARF and fixes kind of where ARF is supposed to be. Because 250,000 isn't enough, and 250,000 hasn't been enough for the last 10 years where it's stagnant. Like I showed in the slide, if we increased that 3% every year, we would be at this 350. So it's kind of making up to where we should be. And it's kind of like a restart. And it's just the ARF portion. Still have O&M, still may be able to use initiation fee, all dependent on what the board decides in the budget process.
Yeah, Rich, back to that. For me, it's again an understanding, and so everyone knows and understands where we are in the shape of the roads and how much money, it's going to take to get back to some level. We've been negligent, so to speak, over the last X number of years. When you look at that structure that you'd showed with the road mill and overlay, how many miles can you estimate how many miles have been milled and overlaid of the 22, and how many would need it in the next several years?
That would be a really tough estimate. And the last time I think any roads were milled or overlaid was probably maybe 2020. We did a couple, and before that was 2017. And if you think about, you should be doing at least, if you want to do them in 20 years, you need to do at least a mile every year. We haven't even had, for most instances, except for this past year, the other years, all your money is being spent on 1 mile if you mill and overlay, and all the rest goes neglected. So it's a balance of how you look at that. But no, we haven't, we've done it twice since I've been here in 7 years, I think. That's it.
That was my follow-up question. I mean, obviously Kiowa Drive West probably needs mill and overlay today, but Wasco Cove over here that has 3 people on it, we're probably not going to mill and overlay, right? So that was one question. And then the next is why not do an assessment? Because I agree, we can all sit here and say we need to get caught up, but if we introduce this fund, it's never going to go away. So you're going to have $20 a month for everyone in perpetuity, likely 5% up every year.
And likewise, you're going to be doing some maintenance every year, depending on what it is, because you don't want to mill and overlay when it's not necessary. So you're always going to have maintenance. You could do an assessment and get a ton of it done at one time, but you would be looking at, again, you have your primary roads, secondary, tertiary roads. We have that as a list as well. You'd have to do a whole nother study again. They did a road study back in, I think, 2015, 2016 when they started this, but after a couple of years, it was, blown away because you couldn't follow it.
If you go back and look, whenever they did the road study, it's in the strategic plan. And it talked about in the strategic plan, hey, we've done this. It's going to cost $500,000 a year. You need to do this. And like the next update of that was like, well, we couldn't do that anymore. So now we're back to a couple of 100,000 that we can scrape out of O&M. So it's interesting to see. I mean, the history is there as to where we are.
And also, do you mind? Some of these engineers, though, I mean, I agree we should mill and overlay this whole place, but the engineers are going to tell you what you should do, but there's a happy medium on there. What's the bare minimum and to keep us going? So I just think this is a lot of money to be talking about.
It is. And in the discussions that we've had in Ways and Means, that assessments seem to make sense for one-time costs like replacing greens, that you do every decade or two, where road maintenance is an ongoing, continuing thing, and trying to do an assessment. So we raise $1 million in an assessment, then 2 years later, we're going to have to go back and do another $1 million assessment. And then, and then if we don't get those assessments done, then we're actually below zero from where we are now.
And the key is to getting the buy-in of the membership.
Correct. We decide, and it's got to go to the February vote. So, but yeah, this just changes. We just approved 359.65, and as of April 1st, that would go to 379.65. And just so everyone's aware.
Yeah, I mean, all true. So, I mean, but we need to take care of the infrastructure that we have, and the comment someone made earlier about, oh, I don't play golf, but everybody drives on roads and can only crack seal so much. So
I think the thing that I will say as president that I've been challenged with the most by our members is that someone, someplace on a board is going to have to make some tough decisions. And so you need to decide if you're going to be the president or if somebody else is going to be the president, or you kick it down the road. And we face some heavy issues, and we'll continue to do that. Not only now, but as a board. And so you have to start someplace. And it does impact every member, but it also gives the member the opportunity to say yay or nay and tell us what their flavor is. And so I think, from my perspective, I think you have to go through and lay something out there for them and find out if they're willing to support it or not. So you had 3 parts of what you said.
I think that, do we want to propose this fund? What do we think about the particulars of the language? And then, assuming we get that far, is $20 enough? I mean, my personal opinion, this is obviously a board vote. Like anything less was just, we shouldn't even bother with it, because it would be a heavy lift to pass for not really much return. I mean, we could easily use the money if we go higher, but at some point, at what point does it just not get the support of the community? And I don't know exactly what that magic number is.
No, the only thing I was going to add to that is, if roads are are a priority and we spend money on roads, then it's not like we'd have to cut money other places. So the one side is, do you want a road reserve fund and actually have understood there'll be more money every month. If you don't want a roads reserve fund, but you want to maintain the roads, there has to be some decisions on where do you take the money from, and not a couple dollars here and there, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. So that, to me, that's how I think about it and frame it. But the Dan Bessie opinion is that I like this concept. I support it. I like the way it's written. I would say that either we start at 20 or go, my personal opinion would be 25 and move forward. So I would love to be able to get this approved tonight.
I'm not looking at my history. I was trying to find it real quick, but when did we put into play April 1st, the Lake Management Reserve Fund? 19. Okay, that's what I was thinking. So we started at $12, correct? $12.50. And so today we're at 15. And so separate, same, yes, exactly. And so, all right, that we started that. And so no doubt it will increase fees. Everything is, unfortunately. Yes, it does. And so I think the way you've laid it out, you've done a good job with that.
Is the wording that you're proposing, Sean, to use only the $20 option, or is there an option to say we could approve this at a $20 assessment type situation, I guess, or carve out in this case, or 25? I mean,
It's it's written as $20. I mean, I don't want to get too cute, but I wonder if there's a way to have alternatives on the ballot.
You'd have to have different bylaws amendment.
Yeah.
This one is for 20, this one's for
I want to make
15,
it too
this for
complicated.
12.
That's probably
well,
might
the
be
way
a
I'm
complicated thing.
hearing this from what Dan's saying is that the $20 portion of this would just barely get us to where we need to be.
Correct. And that's, yeah. But, we know the lower the dollar amount, the more likely it's going to be palatable. The higher the dollar amount, the less likely it's going to be, people will be excited about it. So that's where we're trying to find, is it push the number up, get more progress, push the number down. And I agree with Sean 100%. There's diminishing returns here. Anything below 20 is not worth it. So I think to Sean's point, the discussion tonight is, do we go with 20? Do we go with a higher number, but really only have one shot this cycle to, in my opinion, to come up with that proposal? And
Well, that's the idea of maybe giving them more than one option.
I think the issue is you need so many people to approve the bylaw. The more
Correct.
votes you have split it, there's no way it's going to pass.
No way to
Correct.
reach that. Okay, that makes sense then.
So
Thank you.
go ahead, Bria.
I was just going to say, being on the board when we talked about the initiation fee, same thing. And now we have 250 extra thousand a year to spend. We kind of went back and forth on what the fee could be. Start somewhere, is what I say. I'm good with the $20.
So it looks like to me that there's two motions. One, to approve the creation of the road reserve fund, and then to approve the 20, or is there one motion? Well, that's your bylaw. And so
It's to approve the ballot and the language.
right.
Right. That's what the proposal, I think, would be, if anyone motions this, I think it would just be to approve the proposed bylaw for the ballot. And then the resolution contains the funding number.
It requires 51%, correct? 50 plus 1, not 2/3.
Right. Yeah. To create a bylaw or to pass a new bylaw, it's just a simple majority. It's different.
To create a new reserve fund, it's a simple majority.
That
To change a bylaw, it's 2/3, right?
That's wasn't to change a bylaw is a super majority. I don't really know why we did it that way, but those people a long time ago set up that way.
they didn't want what they put in place changed.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the reason you make it a higher number, because it takes more to change it. So
I would like to make a motion to use to, for us to approve moving forward with the road reserve fund exactly as written with the $20 fee to go in front of the community in the February bylaw vote.
Okay. So Dan makes that motion to put that on the agenda for a bylaws change, and Bria seconds. Is that correct? Okay. Is there any discussion to that? Yes, sir. Wait just a second. James?
This does have the 5% cap. So it's not going to be something where it grows exponentially. It has a cap built in, has everything. I thought that was important to the discussion I had.
Thank you, James. Yes, sir, Larry.
That's right.
So the motion includes the $20.
Yeah, that's just how it's written.
Any other discussion? All right, ready for the question? All those in favor of putting it on the ballot, raise your hand. Those opposed? All right. I got it. And so the motion to put it on the ballot has been approved 8-0 with 1 abstention. That's all right. No worries. Thank you. Keeping me straight. I appreciate that. It takes a village. Sean?
Okay, the next one, probably a lot less to discuss, but it was brought to our attention that, well, let me back up. So there's apparently, I'm not a big golfer, but apparently there's a PGA requirement that there's an actual handicap committee to have what's the term, Ronnie, to have a something course? I don't know, accredited course or a rated course. That's right. I'm sorry. Forgot the term. To have a rated course, you have to have a handicap committee, and the committee has just been appointed as a matter of policy. But the proposal here is just to essentially build that process into the bylaw. So it'd be to for bylaw 10.10, golf committee, just include the language that's in red in your packet, which you can read it for yourself, but it basically just codifies the responsibility of the golf committee to appoint a handicap committee, and according to the rules and procedures of the United States Golf Association. And that committee reports to the golf committee.
Sean, all I would add is that the current bylaws provide that the president will not select all of the committee members to be approved by the board. And it seemed to be a dichotomy with the golf committee creating a committee within itself that was not done that way. And we're going to continue doing it the same way, but we're going to authorize it with this amendment.
So practically not much would change. Is that right? Yeah.
Is there a motion to bring this forward and put it on the ballot? Ronnie? Dan? All right. You have before you the addition or the amendment to the proposed, let's see, amendment to the golf committee is 10.10 golf committee. And so is there any discussion? Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. You've approved it to be on the ballot, 9-0. All right. I don't think George is here. You have that one, Rich, Rules Committee.
Yeah, of course. Up on the screen, October 1st meeting, the special meeting we had, it was passed by the board to go to the member comment for the watercraft registration. Didn't really get any comments regarding this, so you can see the language in front of that was approved by the board previously. All the changes in red, basically changing the date of when it would actually be due, and giving a little leniency there, and then changing where the location of the sticker goes, the numbers. The motion would be for the board to formally adopt this to be recorded with the county and made part of the rules and procedures governing document.
I move to adopt the watercraft registration.
Proposed revision 3.3.6.1 as presented. Is there a second? Bria seconds. All right. Is there any discussion on that motion? All right. All those in favor of adopting 3.3.6.1, raise your hand. All right. Approved 9-0. Thank you all very much. All right. Moving on. Let's see. There was consideration for the Rules Committee to bring forward additional information on prohibited watercraft, but that is moved to the December. Is that correct?
George, or the just January meeting, whenever it's scheduled, I think,
Okay.
because George, speaking for the committee and all those that discussed it, they did not see any reasoning to change it. They liked the way this is worded, and this is the way they would propose it upon any other future discussion. So they proposed just waiting to the next community discussion to get any further discussion and feedback.
Can we put that language up there? Thank you. And for clarification, it's just what's on the screen. It's not, I mean, the last member meeting, we talked lots of different things. This is really just boat length for the most part.
That's correct.
It was just this one, and this is the one that was reviewed and was sent back to the committee. This one specifically with some direction, and they reviewed it and they said they like it the way it is.
I say we table this till the official watercraft meeting in January. I forget the date, but please correct me.
January 17th.
January
4
17th.
2027. Gotcha. 2026. Sounds like it. Is seconded. All right. You have a motion before you to table this until after the January 17th meeting, 2026 meeting, I should say, for watercraft. Is there any discussion?
Other than I thought at the last meeting we'd had, this was all presented and was tabled until that date. And the only thing we voted on was the date.
That's correct. So we never went through and tabled it until then. So, okay. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and we will table it until after January 17th. All right. And before you, Anglers Club. I think they came forward and they have asked the board to table this motion indefinitely to put, I think, the prohibited fishing to temporarily allow them to put jug lines out in the lake. And so they've asked us to just table that indefinitely. And once we do that, it just falls off the board and falls off the table and never comes back. So if you will. So is there a motion to do so? Cecil? Dan? All right. Motion before you is to table indefinitely the allowing the jug lines in our lake. And all those in favor?
Why'd we change it? Why'd they change their mind? Just curious. I don't have an opinion on judging.
Speaking to Lindell, they want to discuss it more themselves, resolve any issues, and bring it to the Lake Committee to get approval from the Lake Committee as well.
Long pushback on it, actually.
Well, they could revise it, and so they can revise it. And I think they didn't have enough information and enough input.
Did not, and it was based on a recommendation from our fishery management company, and there are other options to be explored and further work to be done.
All right, Cecil made the motion and Dan second. Is that right? All right. All those in favor of tabling it? All right. It is 9-0. That motion has been tabled. All right. Rich, community manager report.
Okay, first item on there is just all the reserve funds. There's no request for any funding at this time. I have an updated proposed CARF sheet. Basically, we're showing, again, if we spend everything, we would have about $15,000 left at the end of the year. Again, we're waiting on some large projects like the front entrance, pickleball, it's Little Wolf Park Trail, some large items that are still pending to knock down that amount. So we have actually I think over $800,000 currently. Going into some of the project updates that we're trying to get done, pickleball courts is one of them. Obviously, we've had some delays per the original schedule. They should have been done by now. We've been in discussions with the contractor. They've had some internal issues. Engineering was done, took longer than they wanted to. There's a dirt issue as far as the pad site goes. Some of that's trying to get resolved. They also had a medical incident to the partner and wife of the other partner. And she was our main contact. So we've been trying to move things forward and be a little understanding at the same time. We have had a couple recent meetings. We've sent letters. We're trying to get another point of contact and try to move this project forward. And that's where we are right now, just kind of delays and trying to inch this forward and get it started. Front entrance, the Bluestone is contracted to do bidding.
Rich, sorry, can we just go back on pickleball? Just to make sure, I mean, everyone understands that there's lots of things going on to try to move this forward. The strong desire is to do it in a way that we get pickleball courts at Kiowa. So there's lots of things that are going on that it's not in the public domain. I've heard lots of rumblings that may or may not be accurate. So for anyone that's like, are we doing something? Are we really on top of this? You being part of the last few meetings, I would say yes, absolutely. And we're looking at all our options to move forward. So this is not something we're just hoping, we're actually taking action to try to get this done. But we don't want to do it in a way that it blows up when we never get pickleball courts at Kiowa. Yeah, I mean, there's been lots of engagement. I mean, with the pickleball committee, which was Priya's point. I saw Mike here earlier. Roger Treacher's been involved, so there's been a lot of activity with them as well. So there's no surprises back and forth at this point between Mike, Roger, and the POA.
Thank you. And yeah, both internal meetings we've included the pickleball group, so they're well aware of everything. And again, we're trying to move this forward as best way as possible. And just we wish things could go smoother and wish this would have been done already, but we're trying to resolve the issues that are in front of us and trying to move this forward.
Just a quick question. I understand that the last communication you've had or communication you have sent to Dina McCrae gave her a December 1st deadline. Is that correct?
I actually sent it to Jason McCrae. Dina's the one that has the medical issue and she's non-responsive. So we sent it to Jason and then he is
You need to clarify
medically
that.
now she cannot physically respond.
And we know that we know that for a fact.
Correct. Yeah, she's in a hospital that we know of, and she's not able to physically respond to us at this time.
She had a major medical scenario, so this is not something that something that we need to be considerate of and not trying to do something inappropriate while someone's having a significant medical issue.
I understand.
Rich, isn't it true that there are 8 members of that company that are available to be our contact point?
That's approximately the number, yes.
And have we requested that another one be appointed?
That is correct. And we gave them a deadline to do that and try to get us a schedule. So we have some idea of moving forward. No problem. Next one on the list is the front entrance. Again, like I said, we contracted with them. They're in contact with GCs themselves, trying to get bidding. They have had a couple site visits scheduled. They have another one scheduled in December. So hopefully we'll start getting bids, seeing what the cost of this is, seeing what changes we have to do, any value engineering. That's part of it as well. And then hopefully bring it back to the board for approval once we know what the number is. Next one is Little Wolf Park. We've prepared an RFP. James has reviewed it, given us some comments. We need to revise that and get it out. Part 3 9-hole course, that's moving smoothly. One issue they've had is, like I mentioned before, some of the divots. We are getting cost pricing for hitting mats, one for each hole. We got some bids in on that already, trying to figure out scheduling. Hopefully, the goal is to get it done sometime in December. As we alluded to earlier as well, as part of the dredging, Solitude, we've contracted with them. They've been out. They took the samples for their product they're called Trimarine. It actually gets rid of the organic material that would reduce obviously the level of the overall material, increasing the water depth. At the same time, it would be more of a sandy material instead of the ucky. So that would be a double improvement. Public Works update, where you have the crews, JNL road crew at Par 3 right now doing the Par 3 road and the driving range. They also have some other patchwork to do in certain areas. I know people really probably want to get the patchwork done. There's quite a few areas that had saw cuts from SUD and some other areas. Safety and security, you have on your list the number of citations down to only 21 last month, 23 including the code enforcement. Again, there were 584 call-in passes, and if you saw Melanie's notice go out for Thanksgiving, they're not going to accept any call-in passes. They'll be too busy to do that. Some other items just to mention, patio heaters. I think the latest date we have is an install date. We actually have them on hand. They were delivered. Install date is now approximately December 8th. Golf course clock has finally been fixed. If anybody's been out there, I know it's kind of later in the year, but the golf course clock is finally working. Christmas decorations are up. Christmas lights are up on the lodge. If you have any questions, the detail of the security report is there. And you also have just some of the articles from the lodge, just basically talking about the great year they've had, and a golf course, talking about the winter that's starting to come in, taking care of the leaves. Again, if the temperature gets down to freezing, you'll have the covers coming out, etc. And that's all I have for right now.
Rich, one question. We heard Larry talk about the Veterans Park. So what's the role of the POA and Public Works as part of that versus, because it's not been on your list, but it's come up a couple different times. So where are you guys versus where?
It's basically just coordination. We have the location picked. We do have a light pole. We're going to try to work with Pentex to get taken care of a couple small items, but really it should be a turnkey from the contractor coming in and doing the work. So Public Works itself shouldn't be involved that much.
Bluestone, yeah.
And it's my understanding too, though, they made some changes to that, even from what it originally came to the board, right? Which that also plays into where it goes to, I think, right?
Overall size hasn't changed. They changed how the names were going to be displayed and the flags.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the items, the specifics, but the size I think is basically the same, and location's the same, and it'll all be contracted out. So except for some minor, coordination on the site, the POA itself really won't be doing any work per se.
The plan itself has not changed. In fact, from what we approved.
Any questions for Rich? All right. Any additional business to come before us at this point in time that we're aware of? Nope. All right. And then we'll open it back up for comments from the members. If you do have a comment, please use the microphone and state your lot and your name. Are there any comments from members at this point in time?
Victoria Cowart, lot 1242 or 1. I don't know. I'll confirm at the end of this, I suppose. When you're breaking down the golf numbers of who's taking the Saturday tee times, has it been considered to break down with all the talk of the budget which members do and don't golf and how much of what is allocated is going to the course, especially when you consider part three and that increased maintenance and where that may have changed things. I know one of the meetings that I came to, I talked about the initiation fee and paying dues the same month and thought that was interesting. And was told that those were collected to offset that I was enjoying all these amenities that I previously hadn't contributed to. So to hear how behind the roads are is a little alarming. So I'm curious with the breakdown of where money is spent, if there's consideration to where the community does, I mean, by numbers, place their time and their priority, not just maybe preferential, anecdotal story.
I will. All of our decisions on the board as to how money is spent try to take into account all of the things that the people want, all of the things that the people want to pay for, all of the things that they don't want to pay for. And when it comes down to the use of the facilities, there have been many efforts over the years to say, okay, let's charge a separate fee for those who use the roads. Let's charge a separate fee based on how often they use it. And same for the golf course, same for the walking trails, same for the dog park, and all of our legal opinions that we've received and the opinion of the district court in Cook County in relation to the prior litigation emphasize that we cannot do that. This is a community. It has amenities. Each of the amenities that we have contribute to the value of each person's lot and house if they have a house on it. And it would not be fair to charge someone based on their use when they're getting a benefit from non-use.
Not suggesting that at all. My question was when you look at the overarching, if all of the funds collected were a pie, what the size of the slice that goes to golf is based on use compared to every single person does have to use roads.
So we do have that from a dollars and cents point of view. Obviously, POA budgets the golf course. We also track how many people on par three is separate, right? All the money for the par three was done through donations, and all the maintenance on the par three for the ongoing future is through donations. So it's really just thinking about the 18-hole golf course, and that by far is a bigger expense than roads, but it also is used in a very high fashion. I think when we looked at it, 50,000 plus rounds of golf a year, one of the top handful of private golf courses in the state. So, that's something that we do look at and understand it. But I think to the point that Ronnie was making, if you just being crazy for a second, you say, all right, we want to cut golf course by $500,000 and use it for somewhere else. The golf course becomes unusable and an eyesore, and all of our houses and lots become less valuable, and never mind member satisfaction and all that kind of stuff. So that is absolutely something that we look at in that balance. And part of it is, what do you need to be able to maintain things in the way that is acceptable to all of the members? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and by no means am I suggesting we take away from it. It's more of, okay, so with the initiation fee, that's not earmarked anywhere. There are certain ways that gets broke down, not trying to take away from that work at all. But I'm curious if there are numbers behind where some of the preferences come from. And like you said, there's a want versus a need in some of those things that I'm wondering how that's considered.
Yeah, it really comes the other way, though. It's more of, what do we need to do to maintain the golf course in a manner that is necessary to have that as a positive amenity. You balance that with roads. I mean, could Brian spend an extra X $100,000 on the golf course, to do different things, maintain things? He has a wish list of items, upgrading tee boxes and whatever. Irrigation, yeah, like car pass upgrades, all those things are out there. So if you asked every one of Rich's people and said, do we have enough money for the lodge? Do we have enough money for roads? Do we have enough money for the golf course? Do we have enough money to support the finance operations? The answer is no. So it's always, as we go through this, it's always trying to make the best allocation possible, given the constraints we have. And I think you bring up a good point in that, and I appreciate you being a newer member thinking through this, that we have lots of financial challenges here, and many members have not been as interested in becoming as informed as you have. So I applaud you for that. So at any time, I'm happy to, I think I mentioned this before, sit down and go through the finances and how this works. I've done that with a few other people. Happy to do it. Because there's no perfect answer. It's really the best we can do with the money that we have.
Paul Sellers, 1578. Dan, I'm going to call it wrong, so you correct me. To help the regular members or the members that don't understand, when they look at the communique and it says there's $5 million left over there, whatever that fund is there a way, because I know that it's earmarked for things, is there a way to get it to them in that communique that says, here's what it's earmarked for, instead of it just sitting there? Then you wouldn't have them going, well, you have all this money. Well, you say it's earmarked. Earmarked for what?
Yeah.
Is there a way to list that so that the people know what that money's earmarked for?
Yeah, absolutely. And this has been another ongoing discussion that we've been having around member education. But if you look in the communique in that bottom left box that says Asset Replacement Reserve Fund, that's solely dedicated as a restricted reserve fund. Any of that money can only go to replace or refurbish capital assets that we have at Kiowa. So you see the Lake Management Reserve Fund, that only can go to the items on the lake. Same with the golf course. So if you pull all those things out, then you're really back down to just operating cash. So that's the tough part. Is over the years we've tried to continue to communicate that. There is some desire sponsored by the Ways and Means, and should be working on that right now, is to do more member financial education opportunities, but like doing town halls around that. The tough part that we have is that we reached out through multiple articles in the communique, multiple articles in Constant Contact. 2 weeks ago, was it, Rich, where we tried to do a town hall regarding trying to get priorities, help get feedback from the community on prioritization from the last member satisfaction survey that was fielded in August. And so we were going to present the information and ask for feedback on all the things that we could do based on feedback from the survey, what we should do. And exactly 0 members showed up. 0. Rich and I were here like, hey, it's a little bit later arriving crowd than normal. And there was no one. So that's the struggle, is that you can put things out in the communique, you can put them on Constant Contact. And as I said, before, there's definitely more people playing poker across the hall than there's in this room. So, I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying we're continuing to try to find ways to help, people become more interested in becoming more educated. So any thoughts or ideas around engagement is more than welcome, because I think I've been beating my head against the wall over the last few years trying to figure out what we can do, and because how do we help people understand that. So we will do a member town hall or multiple member town halls on financial education. Rich has started to put together or keep track of key performance measures for the community. That financials are part of that, a big part of that. So that will be communicated, continue to be communicated out. So anything we can do, any idea is a good one. So any thoughts by anyone, it would be appreciated.
Okay, because again, I'm new here. I've only been here 30 years. But I'm just now getting involved in it because I was working before. Now I don't.
So Paul, is it what you're asking for, like asset replacement fund?
Well, at the end on the bottom, okay, it says 5 million.
Sure. Well, just let me say, so in what sometimes you'll see on our budgets, or you'll see in our minutes or whatever, it says we paid out of the asset replacement fund $65,000 for a mower. And so, is that what you're asking for?
Well, what I'm asking for is the money. I'm not asking. When you talk to people, or just like you said, Dan, about the pickleball stuff, hearsay, and what's out there, is that, well, you have all this money.
Correct.
And
correct.
I can tell them, well, no, it's earmarked for stuff. For What?
I mean, this is easy. There's a spreadsheet and he has it.
I know
And so
he has it, but
So yeah,
all those people out there that live in houses don't have it.
sure.
They should
So
have it if he had it.
I'm a CPA and I don't want to read it. I mean, honestly, it's
But if you put it out there, then
It's a
they
spread-
couldn't complain. They couldn't complain that you have it because
But
it's out
Paul,
there.
we send out the treasurer's report every Friday after the board meeting.
It's okay.
We put out all the budget information. I mean, we've had 3 or 4 budget workshops in the last month, and a total of, I think, 4 members came.
Okay.
Dan, it's all right. It's okay. I mean, his point's very well taken. We can do it.
I
We can
understand.
do a
I'm just
better
trying to
job.
say, we, right, and definition of insanity is doing what you do over and over again,
Yes.
expecting different result. We've tried and we're
Okay.
continuing to try. So any ideas around how we can make more effective actions, I'd appreciate.
Okay.
And-
Thanks.
And what it looks like, not just tell me what it is, but what it looks like.
Yes.
So give us an example of what you're looking for. So
Okay.
and we'll
And
do that.
my last
So-
thing, to go back to my original comment before it, is there a timeline for y'all
timeline for us.
for
we all have a time limit.
allowing this contract to go on before it needs to be determined as to
Well,
what
I think that's one thing that we have to continue to discuss is to what we're willing to wait for or put
Right.
out there. And so
Okay.
we'll continue to have that conversation. Yes, sir.
Thanks.
It isn't, we aren't sitting by the sides. Just a second.
I'm gonna steal someone else's thunder.
Just a second. Is there anybody else that has a comment? Okay, go for it.
When you talk about ways to engage that are alternatives to, one person showing up or so many people showing up, I think I sat with Ronnie and Nancy and was the only one on Wednesday. So we hung out. That was fun. Aside from that, where are we leveraging technology in that? Because I would have loved to have been at some of those meetings. I was in Portugal. Couldn't be here physically. I do know that there are some technological things that you can do, like you can join these board meetings remotely, but as far as like the one-on-ones, is someone maintaining a chat? Is there a way to join in?
We have not done that yet. I mean, we've looked at just being open for people to come in and make it very casual. We have not done it as a Zoom meeting. Certainly, I guess we could figure that out and do that as a Zoom meeting. So we could do it, but that would be the way that we would have to do it so that people could come in.
It
And
might
so
be an
we'll-
option with weekenders, especially considering you may not have everybody here through the week. And I didn't realize as a new member that budget meetings were open to members. I thought that was more like your closed sessions because
Actually, every meeting that the board has is open to the members. The only one that is not is when we go in executive session, and that is to maintain the privacy of our members and our staff and consult with our attorney. And so, right. So every meeting of the board, we cannot meet. Actually, we really can't hang out at a party or anything like that if there's 5 or 6 of us there. So technically, if you will, because then we could have a meeting, a secret meeting. So we don't do that. So
yeah, by no means was that an accusation. I think it was
Nope.
more of a
Nope.
awareness note or
Nope.
potential disconnect. So
Nope. I'm just
hopefully that
letting you
idea
know.
helps.
Yep. Every meeting's open. So you are welcome to come in there. So, and anyone is. And I will say again, to Dan's point, Victoria has been very, very active as a new member. And so I appreciate that. So, and we did have a good time hanging out at the chat meeting the other day. So, all right. Any other comments for the members? All right. We're going to adjourn this meeting and take a break. And then after that, we will be going into executive session. So it is 8:10. You got 10 minutes.